Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Hayes, and it's another short rant on the same day because things have been moving fast. Ukraine has taken Kupiansk and Izyum according to the latest reports, and so the information that I talked about earlier this morning has been overcome by events, or we could say that escalated quickly. So let's go to the maps and try and figure out what's going on. Now, every day, the Institute for the Study of the War produces these maps as part of their assessment of the Russian campaign offensive. And these are what I've been using because they're really they're good maps, right? But they're kind of static. And if we scroll down, this is something I didn't necessarily focus on last time. The map I was using this morning had data from the previous day, September 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So there are, sometimes a little out of date. Normally, they're not much out of date because things haven't been moving very fast. That's changed in the last couple of days. And so this map showed, the ones I looked at, showed the Ukrainians had made it to the Oskil River. They were still south of Kupiansk and still a ways from Izyum. All right. So that was where we were. And as always, all credit goes to ISW and critical threats for these maps. But ISW also has an interactive map that we can look at that's a little more up to date. Okay, here is ISW's interactive map, and I hope I don't get in trouble for using this, but I'm going to claim fair use here. And they publish this every day, and they update it a little bit more. And here, if we zoom in, and here, some of the city names are tough, and it's easy to get lost in this map, but this is where we were looking before, right? And up here is Kupiansk. It gets covered up in the interactive map, but that's Kupiansk right there. And very clearly, they've taken a lot of terrain north of it up along the banks of the Oskil. If we go south, and pull out and go south, here is Izyum. So they, according to this map, are on the outskirts of Izyum, right? And that's what this map shows. Now, we also have reporting from the Russian Ministry of Defense that they said, yes, we pulled out of Kupiansk. We pulled out of another city that was taken recently is Balakilia, excuse me. It's hard to read them when they're so faint, but that they announced, yes, we pulled out. And kind of their story is that they've been conducting this operation that they're redeploying troops from inside the Kharkiv Oblast, right? And Oblast, these are the provinces. So this is all the Kharkiv Oblast. And over here is the Donetsk Oblast, right? And Donetsk is the province or oblast that has broken away from Ukraine and declared itself a republic, its own independent state, People's Republic. And the Russians are, it's Donetsk and Luhansk, and the Russians are fighting on them. So, their spin on this is that they are redeploying into these areas where, to further their operations because they want to take all of Donetsk province, right? Now, what does that mean? Well, the line right here, kind of very hard to see, but it's faint purple line underneath all this red. That is the border, right? So everything down here is Donetsk, and they don't have all of Donetsk province. We still have Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and they're still fighting over Donetsk city down farther south. But let's stay up here, right? So this is important that, they are now admitting to it, and they now have informationally, they now have their own narrative that this is a redeployment. They're probably denying that the Ukrainians have done anything. Okay, that's their story. They can stick to it. The fact on the ground is that it looks like the Ukrainians have been moving, and if the reports are right and they're in Izyum, then this area should be blue as well. And that may be, what we see. And they may, in fact, be pulling back to the Donetsk border and getting out of the way. But let's look at where this border is. Okay, and keep in mind the key points here are we have Izyum up here, which is a fairly large city and has been a major hub for Russian logistics in the area. Down here we have Sloviansk, and this highway, right, that runs all the way through here, right, is pretty important. Okay, I believe it's the E40. My old eyes can't see so well. Things shrink on these interactives. That's why I like the static maps. When you scroll in, it blows up. But the point here is that you've got this area, right? The Severodonetsk River runs through here and has been a good obstacle. We also have a lot of terrain. See all the green underneath all that? there's a lot of wooded terrain in this area, right? Also, the Oskil River comes all the way down here and provides a nice anchor, a nice protection for the Ukrainian, well, I would call it the flank, but it's now kind of their front. And if we go, we can go to Google Maps, right, and look at a satellite image of this area, right? So up here is Izyum. That's what's highlighted. I picked that. I zoomed in on that. And if we look down here, this is the road down to Sloviansk, which is there, right? I have to zoom out, right, really far to get to Sloviansk. And so that's the terrain. The border runs along here. So basically, this is now kind of the front line. They're pushing back towards Lyman, right? And we're getting more and more, we're getting some pushback towards Lyman. And there's this area, I was kind of surprised they got out of Lyman. We have all these woods and hills and terrain in here. It's a very kind of interesting looking excavations, but also we have a national park with, all that terrain. Here's the river, the Severodonetsk River that runs, it actually, runs down and around and cuts back in and goes over this way, right? So that might be a little confusing, but if we get to a map view, get back to what we really want to look at here is if the Russians pull out of Izyum to here into the Donetsk province, right, they've got this gap, right? We've got this line, we got the river coming down from the Oskil, we've got this terrain in this area, right? Lots of wooded terrain, lots of river crossing. So, it really is a good defensive line. And the kind of things that the Ukrainians have been good at defending. And in fact, they've been pushing back, taking back this wooded area in kind of an infantry fight where the Ukrainians are going to do much better than the poorly trained and unmotivated Russians. So they just have kind of this gap here, right? And there's not much in here, right? When we look in at first, it looks like it's built up, but when you zoom in, right, those aren't houses in there. Those are tracks through woods. So this looks like a forestry area. And we have the river. We have a lot of woods making things kind of weird. So my point is that we've got nice defensible terrain for the Ukrainians to work with, right? If that is established as a line. Of course, it works both ways, right? The Russians are maybe smart enough to duck behind something for the winter. We'll have to see. God only knows. I do a video one day, and by the afternoon, things have totally happened and changed. It's kind of interesting. Again, I don't want to get, excited about a war, but it is just hard not to get kind of anxious when you're watching all these developments come out. So we'll be waiting for the next update. The ISW updates, even though they're literally yesterday's news by the time I look at them, they nevertheless are the most detailed. And so we'll see really what happened today. But significant movement, significant events keep occurring in the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Thank you for watching my short rant. I hope it was short and not too much of a rant. I'm Dr. Dave Hayes, and though I teach at Troy University, this video is my own work. Troy University has neither approved nor reviewed the content. So there. And if you want to learn more about Troy anyway, figure out who would hire a guy like this, you can always go to www.troy.edu. I also am going to have a little card popping up here that you can go see my bio and some information about where I teach, which will descend to shameless self-promotion, but I want more students. What can I say? And finally, the music you've been listening to is Tonight at 8 by Shane Ivers. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll come back and enjoy another short rant.